Imagine you're standing in line at a grocery store, clutching the last few dollars in your wallet. You've got just enough to feed your child for the week. But as you glance at the woman in front of you, you see her struggling. She's trying to pay for her groceries, but she's short just a few dollars. Without hesitation, you step forward, offer your last bit of money, and help her out, never expecting anything in return. But then, a week later, something unbelievable happens. A gift, an unexpected one, appears on your doorstep. A gift so mysterious that it shakes your belief in what the world is capable of. What would you do if you were that single mom, facing a moment of desperation, but still choosing to help a stranger? Would you believe in the power of kindness? This is the story of a woman who didn't have much, yet found it in her heart to give away what little she had. And in doing so, she unknowingly set off a chain of events that would leave her and her child astonished. Meet Sarah, a single mom, doing everything she can to make sure her son, Ethan, has the best life possible, despite the struggles. With bills piling up and no room for luxuries, Sarah never complained. She simply did what she had to do to get by. But one fateful afternoon, her life took an unexpected turn. It all started with a routine trip to the grocery store. Sarah was just trying to get a few things for dinner, but as she stood in line, something caught her attention. A woman in front of her was holding up the line, fumbling with her purse, clearly embarrassed. Her card had been declined, and she had no cash to pay for the food. Sarah didn't think twice. She knew what it felt like to be stuck in a tough spot. Without a second thought, she handed over the last of her money, helping the stranger out. The woman was incredibly grateful, thanking Sarah over and over. She seemed like she didn't have much either, but the two exchanged kind words before parting ways. Sarah didn't think much of it after that. She'd done something good, and that was enough for her. But a week later, as she and Ethan came home after a long day, something strange caught her eye. On their doorstep, nestled in a box, was a gift. It wasn't addressed to anyone, and there was no return label. It wasn't even wrapped, just a simple wooden box with a small handwritten note that read, "For the one who gave without expecting anything in return." Sarah opened the box cautiously, and what she found inside made her heart skip a beat. It was a necklace, a beautiful, delicate piece, with a charm she recognized. It was the same charm her grandmother used to wear, a symbol of hope, kindness, and good fortune. But why would someone send this to her? Who could have known that this simple gesture of kindness would result in something so mysterious? As Sarah and Ethan stood there, staring at the box, a sense of unease began to creep over her. She couldn't explain it, but the timing felt too perfect. It had to mean something. But what? Who had sent this gift? Was it the woman she had helped, or was there something more at play here? Could this be a sign that kindness, the kind where you give without expecting anything in return, was being rewarded in ways Sarah never could have imagined? As the days passed, the questions only grew. The gift seemed like too much of a coincidence. Could it be a gesture of gratitude? Or was it something more? Was there someone watching, someone who had seen what she did, and felt the need to repay her in a way she never thought possible? In the quiet moments, as she tucked Ethan into bed, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at work. The world, in all its chaos, had found a way to balance itself out. But what would come next? Would this be the start of something new? Something that could change everything for her and her son? As the mystery deepens, Sarah is left with more questions than answers. What happens when you give everything you have, even when you're at your lowest? Does the universe really have a way of returning good deeds in ways we never expect? And most importantly, will Sarah and Ethan's lives ever be the same after this? The gift was only the beginning. The real question is, what's next? The days following the mysterious gift felt like a blur. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. She kept replaying the events of the past week in her mind. The stranger, the groceries, the quick kindness she had offered. None of it seemed extraordinary at the time, just a simple act of helping someone in need. But now, in the quiet of her home, it felt like the universe was somehow trying to tell her something. Ethan noticed his mom's unease, but like any child, he was more focused on the gift itself. "Mom, this necklace is really cool," Ethan had said the night she found it. "Do you think it's magic?" Sarah had smiled weakly, brushing it off as an odd coincidence. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the knot in her stomach. She had to know more. She couldn't just pretend that this was nothing. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she began asking around, trying to track down the woman she had helped at the store. But no one had any information. The store workers didn't recall the transaction. And when Sarah tried to retrace her steps, everything seemed to blur together. It was as if the woman had vanished into thin air, leaving only the memory of a brief encounter and that mysterious box. The necklace, however, stayed with Sarah. She wore it every day, not because it was particularly valuable or even her style, but because it felt like it held some sort of unspoken meaning. It was like a puzzle piece she couldn't quite fit into place. It didn't help that every time she glanced at it, the strange feeling in her chest grew stronger. It was as if it was meant to be more than just a gift. It felt like a sign. Meanwhile, life was anything but easy for Sarah. Being a single mom was a constant balancing act. Ethan was everything to her. She had always promised herself she would do whatever it took to give him a better life than the one she had growing up. That meant long hours at work, sacrifices, and stretching every dollar to make ends meet. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. And yet, despite all the effort, Sarah found herself slipping further into debt. The bills were piling up again, and her paycheck was barely enough to keep up with rent, let alone the unexpected expenses that seemed to pop up at the worst times. The mystery of the gift felt like a distraction from all the stress, but it also became a fixation. What if it was a sign of something bigger? Could this be the moment that changed everything for them? She couldn't afford to ignore it, not when things were so hard. The idea that there was someone out there, looking out for her and Ethan, gave her a strange hope, but that hope was shadowed by doubt. What if it was all just a coincidence? And if it wasn't, who was sending these mysterious gifts? Was it someone with good intentions? Or was there something more to it that she wasn't seeing? As the week went on, the tension built. Sarah's financial struggles were starting to catch up with her again. She was getting notices from the bank, and the landlord had started sending late payment reminders. In the midst of this, something unexpected happened. A package arrived at their doorstep. Not a gift this time, but an envelope. It was a letter addressed to Sarah in handwriting she didn't recognize. Her heart raced as she opened it. The letter was simple, but it sent a chill down her spine. It read, "You have been given a gift. Now you must return the favor. The time has come." No other explanation. Just those cryptic words. Sarah stared at the letter in disbelief. What did it mean? Who was this person? And what were they asking her to do? Was this some kind of game? A twisted test of her morality? She couldn't understand why someone would send her a letter like this, especially after she had done nothing more than help a stranger. Her thoughts raced. Could this be the same person who had sent the necklace? The idea of some unknown benefactor suddenly taking an interest in her life was both unnerving and thrilling. But there was no denying it. The timing was strange. Why now of all times, when everything in her life seemed to be falling apart? With the weight of her mounting debt, the threats from the landlord, and now this mysterious letter, Sarah felt trapped. She didn't know who to trust. She certainly couldn't ask her friends for help. They had their own problems, and Sarah had always been the one to hold it together, never asking for anything in return. But now, with this letter, she couldn't ignore it any longer. What was the universe trying to tell her? As the days passed, Sarah's sense of unease grew. She couldn't ignore the letter, but she also couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening wasn't as simple as it seemed. Was she being watched? Had someone been keeping tabs on her all along? It felt like she was being pulled deeper into a web of mystery that she had no control over. And then, just as things seemed to reach a breaking point, something happened that would change everything. Ethan came home from school with a note in his backpack. It was written in the same handwriting as the letter she had received, and it was addressed to him. The note said, "You are the key. Don't be afraid." It was a message for her son. What did it mean? And how was he involved in this strange and unsettling turn of events? Sarah's mind raced. She had no answers. But one thing was clear. This was no ordinary situation. The gift, the letter, the mysterious messages. They were all connected. And as she looked at Ethan, standing there, holding the note in his hand, she realized that whatever was happening wasn't just about her anymore. It was about them both. The world was pushing them towards something, but what? And how would they navigate this storm? The answers felt just out of reach, but one thing was certain. Their lives would never be the same again. As Sarah stared at the note in Ethan's hands, a cold shiver ran down her spine. This wasn't just some harmless gesture anymore. The message was clear. You are the key. Don't be afraid. But what did it mean? And why her son? Her heart pounded in her chest as a flood of questions raced through her mind. She could no longer ignore the feeling that something far bigger was unfolding around them. Something that they weren't prepared for. Ethan, oblivious to the full weight of the situation, read the note aloud, his voice small. "Mom, what does it mean? I don't want to be scared." Sarah pulled him close, trying to calm him, though she wasn't sure how much she believed her own words. "I don't know, baby, but I promise. We're going to figure it out." She felt a strange sense of urgency. She had to find answers. Fast. The letter, the necklace, and now this note. They were all linked somehow, and they were pulling her deeper into a mystery she wasn't sure she could solve. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about the help she'd offered a stranger. This was about something far more important. Something connected to Ethan. To them. In the quiet of their apartment, Sarah thought back to the day she'd helped the woman at the grocery store. Had it really been just a random act of kindness? Or had it been part of something more? What if her small, selfless act had set off a chain of events that she had no control over? Her mind raced. Could the gift, the letter, even Ethan's involvement be a test? A way for someone to see if she could handle the responsibility that came with kindness. The thought seemed impossible. But then again, nothing about this situation made sense anymore. Desperate for answers, Sarah decided to take action. She called every number she could think of, traced back to the store, and even reached out to people in the community, hoping to find some clue, some connection that might lead her to the truth. And then, one evening, just as she was about to give up, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hesitant but determined, Sarah answered. "Hello," she said, trying to steady her voice. A calm, almost soothing voice responded. "Sarah, I'm glad you've come this far. I knew you would." The words stopped her. In her tracks, it was the voice of the person who had sent the letter, the gift. But how did they know her name? How had they been watching her? And I know this is all a lot to take in. The voice continued. But you've proven something important. The world can be cruel, and kindness can be rare. But you've shown that even when you have little, you're still willing to give. That's why I'm reaching out. The voice paused, as if waiting for Sarah to process the information. You see, there's more to this story than you realize. The gift, the letter, they were never meant to be random. You were chosen for a reason, Sarah. And now it's time to pass on the favor. Her pulse quickened. Pass on the favor? What are you talking about? There are others, the voice said softly. Others in need. Just like you were, before you helped that stranger. You've been part of something bigger. Something that asks you to pay it forward in a way that will change your life. And theirs. It felt like a dream. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place. But Sarah was still struggling to understand the bigger picture. But why me? Why Ethan? Because, the voice replied, you have something rare. You have a heart that doesn't ask for anything in return. And your son Ethan is the key to spreading that light. Suddenly, everything became clear. The necklace, the letter, Ethan's note. It wasn't just a random act of kindness that had set everything in motion. It was a part of a much larger, almost cosmic plan. Sarah had unknowingly become part of something that would ripple through the lives of others, spreading kindness and good deeds to those who needed it most. It was a chain of goodwill, one act leading to the next, creating a web of support that connected people in ways they couldn't even begin to understand. As the voice on the other end of the phone spoke more, Sarah's mind began to clear. It wasn't about waiting for someone to help her. It was about being the one to make a difference. She realized now that the true gift wasn't the necklace, the mysterious letters, or even the strange phone call. The true gift was the opportunity to give, to continue the chain of kindness, even when it seemed impossible. The next few days felt like a blur, but Sarah and Ethan quickly became part of the ripple. Sarah took the first steps by helping someone in need, a mother with a child who couldn't afford basic necessities. And as the weeks went by, more and more people began to reach out to them. Sarah realized that the world wasn't as cruel as she had once believed. It was just waiting for people to make the first move, to take that step of kindness, no matter how small. Ethan, too, began to feel the impact of the kindness that was now surrounding them. He'd started to talk more openly about the people they had helped, asking his mum if they could do more. And with every new act of goodwill, they both felt the chain growing stronger. In the end, it wasn't the mysterious gifts that changed their lives. It was the realization that kindness, no matter how small, can have a profound impact on the world around you. Sarah had learned that sometimes giving is the greatest gift you can receive. The true mystery wasn't about finding the person behind the gifts. It was about realizing that kindness is a cycle that never ends, and that anyone, no matter their circumstances, can be the key to changing someone's world.